Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited because today we're talking about how to actually prepare your kids for real life after school, for the flexibility that they need after they're done with education by giving them a great education instead of focusing on narrow paths for career types. And this topic came to me because I had an experience recently where a parent was told that because her child was really focused on wanting to be a specific career, that she didn't need to teach him or her. I'm not going to reveal that, but she didn't need to teach her child the specific subjects related to or that were outside this child's interest level. Now, to me, as an educator and as someone who works a lot with families and who really believes that our children need to be prepared to be lifelong learners and leaders, I was appalled. Oh my gosh, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? I understand. Now I get it. I really do. I get it. I understand. I've talked with many parents that say, well, my kid wants to be a beautician. So why does she need to learn such and such and such? I get it. We want to support our kids, we want to support their interests. And I'm not saying don't do that. But what I am saying is, are we really trying to set them up for success that way? Is it really setting them up for real success, or is it just setting them up for success in one lane? Now we have to think about this in bigger terms. And this is why this story hit me so hard. This is why this parent telling me this was like, what? Because it doesn't take into account so many things. I'm going to share with you today why that's important for our kids to have a great education, how we're going to get them a great education, and what it means for us as homeschoolers to prepare them in that way. So we are focusing on their interests. We are including that as part of a great education, but that's not all we're doing. There is a tendency in the world right now, especially with what's happening in public schools, what's happening in education in general, that we are really taking the level down. We're really taking it down for kids. There's all over the country, kids are not reading whole books in high school. And yikes, this makes me, I'm not just talking about novels, but I am also talking about novels. I'm talking about whole works because they're reading little snippets and they're getting prepared for taking a test, because that's what happens on a test is they read little snippets. They don't necessarily read a whole book to take a test on. And because test scores are all schools really care about, because it looks good to parents, and then that creates a better school rating, right? And then the parents want to send their kids to that school because it's a good school, right? What are we actually giving our kids with that? They're also using AI more. I was just talking about that with a parent this morning. She is a former teacher, and she was saying that one of her students, because she actually tutors, and she was saying one of her students uses AI because the robustness, even at this good private school, the robustness of their curriculum and the pace at which they go is so much that he feels like he needs to use AI to supplement, and so he can't read the whole book, he just doesn't have time. So, or that's just an easy way out, I'm not sure, but either way that's what's happening. And what we want to do is we want to extrapolate all of this out to what the result is, the end result. Who are we raising? And we got to think about that. Who are we raising? And are we setting our kids up for success in our homeschool for really what's coming? not just what career they want to do right now. We all know that can change. There is a career problem. First of all, let's think about this. If they totally want to be a beautician, fantastic. I love it. Let's do it. Let's think about that long term. It is very, very researched and proven that even the 20 and 30-year-olds right now are millennials. They are doing, they're switching jobs or even careers every about 3 years. And they will have many, many, many jobs or even whole career shifts in their lifetime. It's really, really important that we're preparing them for whatever they want to do. And I do hear this from parents, but then I also hear a section of parents that are like, well, we only want to do this. So if that's you, I just want to challenge you to think a little bit bigger. And if you're in the camp, I want to prepare them for anything that they want to do. I want you to think a little bit bigger because guess what else is coming? AI. It's already here. It's not going anywhere. It's getting bigger. Our whole world is shifting. And that means that the career opportunities, entrepreneurship, and job opportunities are going to be very different. There are positions today, industries that won't even exist. And there will be new industries in the future. Are your kids going to be the ones that are adaptable and are the ones even creating those new industries or at least being able to participate in them? Or are your kids, well, I was only trained as this one career. And so I can't adapt as well. See what I'm saying? The AI thing is so, so huge. We are literally, our whole job market's going to change. And our even entrepreneurship industries are going to change. We can't even predict what they're going to be because we're not even there yet. So we have to think about this in terms of a really big picture. We have to really think about what we're preparing our kids for, not just right now, not just after high school or after college. We want to make sure that we're preparing our kids for anything that comes their way. And the only way to do that is to really think about what do they need long term. They need a great education and they need a few skills, right? That are involved with that great education, especially with the coming of AI that makes us very human and will provide them with opportunities if they are excelling in those human skills. I know that's something that we've talked about before when we were talking about the coming of AI. If you haven't listened to those episodes, you can go back and listen to those. Some of those I did with my son Kenyon. But it is absolutely important for us to think about the end goal for our kids. What is that end goal? That is what I talk about all the time. That is a very, very essential difference between let's get curriculum right now, let's get started homeschooling right now, let's check the boxes of school right now, versus hold the phone. Let's think about what the end goal. Let's think about that future. What are we preparing our kids for? Who is that person we're trying to raise? And then come back and say, make sure that everything we're doing gets us to that end goal. Not just check the boxes of school because, well, we have to do math. Okay, but what kind, how, why, when? What does that person look like at 25 years old that needs that? What kind of math does that person need? Well, yeah, we don't know some of it. Well, what kind of thinking does that person need? Can we prepare them for that? And that includes part of the math? And we're not just doing math for math's sake because we have to do math. I believe we need to do math. But what is the end goal of that math? What are we preparing them for? Okay. So that's part of the solution, is to think about what that education means. What is that great education? When I say great education, I'm talking capital G, capital E. Great education, capital G capital E. It's a noun. It's something they achieve. A great education. I can tell you 1,100% that I do not still have what I consider to be a great education. I'm getting there, but I don't because I wasn't taught it in school. Had a lot of years in school and college where that wasn't the case. It is getting a lot better, but I know that my son is actually getting a better education than I was because we're intentional about it. It's really something we have to think about. What does that great education mean? And when we know our end goal, when we know that great education, when we understand that, it makes every day so much easier because now we can be confident. We know what we're doing. We know we're doing this math because of this. We know we're doing this. We're studying history because of this. We know we're trying to get to that end goal. Every day becomes easier. We're confident, more confident because we don't have to second guess. Well, we're doing math. We're doing math how everybody else should. I hope it gets us there. See the difference? It's so much more clear. It's so much more peaceful when you know that what you're doing every single day is getting you to that end goal. So, one of the reasons that we want to build that education, and like I said, is we want to build skills that transfer to everywhere, right? So, that end goal that we're trying to get to, and that ever shifting world that we're sending our kids into. And it's always been that way, but gosh, with AI, it's going to be a whole different story, isn't it? It's going to be very, very innovative heavy. It's going to be thinking heavy. It's going to be judgment heavy. We have to build skills that transfer to anywhere. We need our kids to be analytical and have reasoning skills. We need our kids to have intellectual stamina. And what do I mean by that? Intellectual stamina. We need our kids to be able to think hard longer. Our kids are going to become the politicians. They're going to be, or the elected leaders, I should say. Let's hope they're not like the politician, quote unquote, like we normally say. But they're going to become our elected leaders. They're going to become our industry leaders. They're going to become voters. They're going to become jurors. They're going to become citizens of society that produce things in the world. We want them to be able to think. We want them to be able to analyze. We want them to have a breadth of understanding in history, economics, government, human nature, math, physics, science, art, all of those things. Why? Even if they're not going to use it as a beautician necessarily, they're going to use it as a human being in the world. And we want to raise thinkers that can go into the world and say, yeah, I'm voting for this because I see the big picture. I know the history. Just this morning, I was talking to one of our Inspiring Lifelong Learning Academy members, and she was talking about how they were studying the Great Depression. And I said, gosh, isn't it so important for our kids to understand what got us there to the Great Depression? How that experience was so that we don't repeat it. Now, if we're not reading great books, if we're not reading and we're experiencing what that was like, and we don't know the history of the economics, the human nature, the corporation, the government, all that stuff behind it, how do we not repeat that? I'm also going to say that this is so prevalent right now in today's world. We need love of learning. We need kids who are confident learners. We need lifelong learners, kids who say, I don't know anything about that. Just like today's world, AI is happening. To how much your kids know about it? How much your kids know about the reality of how that's going to affect our world? And they're thinking about it often, how that's going to affect them in society, in our future, in our humanity, and the ability for us not to get wiped off the planet by our own creation. How is that really in their minds? Are we thinking and we're promoting them to think long term, have intellectual stamina? Are we thinking about that? It's very important. They have to be able to communicate. That's another skill. Communicate with people, with industries, communication skills, both writing and verbal. Public speaking, man, is a very important skill. Very important. So let's think about the human advantage of that. Creativity, thinking, judgment, reasoning. Those are all skills that we need to make sure that AI doesn't wipe us off the face of the planet. Those are the skills that we need to make sure that we have industries that are actually serving and promoting prosperity and that we can provide for ourselves in the coming future. Those are the skills that our kids need. They don't come from focusing only on one specific path for life, a career path. They come from a great education. Does that make sense? This is so, so important. We want to keep our kids' doors open for whatever comes into their world longer. So, our tendency to want to, like, okay, you really sure you know you want to be a beautician? That's fine. Let's just keep those doors open. Let's explore more possibilities. Let's just have a breadth of understanding of all these different areas so that if perhaps you don't want to be a beautician in the future and you want to do something else, you have the knowledge, you have the capability, you have the love of learning to be able to shift and adapt to something else in the future. And we know that we're raising a beautician that can be a productive, thinking, reasoning, responsible adult in society that can be a voter, can be an elected official, can be a juror, can be part of our community in a productive manner. That's what we really need to think about. I'm going to challenge you to think about that today. And specifically, I want to talk about how that relates to what's happening in our world right now. I am talking about AI, but I'm also talking about we've had a couple of things in the last couple of weeks here, especially in this last week, that have really challenged our thinking individually. And I'm not saying to think one way or the other. I'm challenging our kids to think. Are you having conversations about what's happening in the world in the Middle East? Are you having conversations about the military and their use of AI? Are you having conversations about that? Are we preparing our kids the history behind all those things and those places and those and people and human nature? Are we preparing our kids for that? That's part of great education. Are we studying this? I know I am because I don't even know everything. My son's actually teaching me a lot of, and my husband teaching me a lot of the history around things that are shifting in the Middle East and the way things are and why things are happening and I'm studying because I don't know either. I don't know enough. So I'm excited to keep that example for my child. He's still learning. I was just listening to a podcast this morning about it and I was fascinated. I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense what he's saying. But he literally said, don't take my word for it. Go dig in yourself. And man, we need that in our world. We need kids to dig in for themselves, but they can only do that if they have a great education, if they have those thinking skills. If we know the end goal is a great education and somebody who can do those things, then we have to then have that picture in our minds, come back and then build from there. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about in the Inspiring Lifelong Learning Masterclass coming up next Thursday on the 19th. You guys, this is actually, it's not next Thursday. It's 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, on the 19th, we're going to be talking about this in the Inspiring Lifelong Learning Masterclass. And I'm telling you, it's important. It's the most important thing that we'll ever do. I'm talking about how to do this, how to put it together, what shifts need to happen, and how we can plan backwards from the end goal. It's the most important thing we'll do for our kids. I don't wanna hear kids saying that I don't know how to do something else. I'm not creative. I don't know how to do this because I've only been trained for this one thing. That is a big fear of mine. We need our kids today to be lifelong learners and leaders with a great education. They can only be that with a great education. And I want to challenge you to think about that for you yourself and your family and your kids. Focus on that end goal and come to the masterclass. Registration opens on Monday. So by the time you're listening to this podcast, in our podcast, in Spotify, Apple, whatever you listen to it, you will be able to register for free for the Inspiring Lifelong Learners Masterclass. And I really hope to meet you there. What we're doing is very important and it makes a difference not only to our kids, but the future of our world. If you resonated with anything that you heard today, please subscribe on YouTube. Please subscribe on the podcast, follow, share, and like, and share this. This this is such an important message today. This might be the most important thing we've ever talked about. Please share this with somebody. Please forward it to them. We need our kids to really lead our world and be thinkers so that they can be prepared for success in whatever the world brings to them, in however it's going to look in the future. I'll talk to you again next week, and I'll see you in the masterclass. You'll be able to find the link wherever you're listening or watching. Bye bye.